On today's show, Tough Mudder Infinite Hero Challenge with Evan Perperis.
This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast.
Welcome back to World's Toughest Podcast. My name is Will Hicks. Thank you for listening. You're listening to the number one rated OCR podcast in the world because of listeners like you. Thank you for listening to the show, leaving ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. You can email me at will@theocrreport.com. You can text me at 619-485-2726. You can follow us on Instagram at the OCR Report. And you can be a part of the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. And I will read it on a future episode. How have you been? It is crazy times in our world. And I know you don't listen to the show to hear about geopolitical news, but I want you to know that I recognize that OCR is important to us. World's Toughest Mudder is important to us, but it is not the most important thing in the world. But I don't claim to have any expertise in geopolitical maneuverings. I do know that countries should not just be randomly invading other countries. That's not exactly a hot take to have. But anyway, we're going to stick to Tough Mudder today. Today in our show, Evan Perperis. Evan hasn't been on this show in a while, and the last time he was on the show, it got a little spicy. You hear his name, you might recognize him from The Talk with Evan Perperis and Ryan Woods. It's an episode a couple years ago. You can go back and listen to that. I'm not going to rehash that all now. But Evan has been working with Tough Mudder. He is the driving force behind the new Tough Mudder Infinite Hero Challenge. That is, Evan talks about it in our interview, but it's basically the equivalent of Spartan's Hurricane Heats, but more of a fun version of that for Tough Mudder. And Infinite Hero Challenge is not to be confused, although it often is confused, with Tough Mudder Infinity. Tough Mudder Infinity is essentially the daytime toughest mudder, a multi-lap, multi-hour course that you run on select Tough Mudder weekends, basically just doing laps and laps and laps of a 15K or a 5K course at a Tough Mudder. Tough Mudder Infinite Hero Challenge is something completely different. Evan gets into details of it when we talk here in a second. Hey, before we talk with Evan, let's read some iTunes reviews.
5 stars. 5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
Daniel77 left us a review. Daniel77 writes, 5 stars. I really liked Will and Caitlin breaking down the world's toughest Olympic sport. Hope I'll be around in 4 years to catch the next episode. 5 stones. Because curling uses stones, not stars. It's very clever, Daniel. Thank you. I don't know what it is about curling, but man, I just enjoy it. I think I told Caitlin, I heard you guys heard me talk about this last episode. I think it's just the straight lines. Everything's orderly until it's not. You know, they spend all that time making these like delicate, precise, like very like hair, like just so throws. And then every once in a while, they just haul off and just whack it and just send everything scattering. Love it. Looking forward to episode 2 airing in episode 3 rather, airing in 2026. I write myself notes from time to time of things that I want to remember, or maybe something from a book or a quote I heard. And I found a note card that I wrote something down. And I wrote it down years ago. And the little saying was, "We ain't making cabinets here." And the only reason that jumped out at me was because I have a 9-year-old daughter, and we have been bumping the Encanto soundtrack basically nonstop for the last month and a half, maybe. And side note, Surface Pressure is better than We Don't Talk About Bruno. So don't at me. You know it's true. But anyway, after We Don't Talk About Bruno, the next track on the CD, on the album, is a girl, Isabella, I don't know their names, singing about how like for whatever, she's had all this pressure to be perfect her whole life, and like all of a sudden she like accidentally made a cactus instead of a flower. And so she's singing a song about it, as they are wont to do in Disney movies. And she has a line, it says, "It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be." And that, for whatever reason, that is almost the exact same phrase or exact same thought behind "We ain't making cabinets here." Like, just get out there. Like, maybe your workout plan's not perfect. Maybe your diet's not perfect. Maybe whatever. It's probably not perfect, right? But we're not making cabinets here. So you did, 11 reps instead of 12. Okay, you're awesome. Like, get over it. Like, the only problem is in your head there. So anyway, that's just something I've been thinking about a lot lately, especially because I've been listening to Encanto a lot lately. We aren't making cabinets here. Just go do it. Hey, let's get to the interview. It's time to talk with Evan Perperis. Let's go to the phones. Evan is a military veteran and an active member of the U.S. Army Special Forces. He was a member of the two-man first place team at World's Toughest Mudder in 2018. He has written 7 books on obstacle course racing and is the driving force behind the Tough Mudder Infinite Hero Challenge. You can read his latest article, Behind the Scenes at Tough Mudder, at theocrreport.com. I am happy to welcome Evan Perperis back to the show. Hey, Evan.
Hey, Will, thanks for having me back. It's been a hot minute.
It's been a while. You know what? I saw you at World's Toughest 2021, and I didn't know this until then, but you've been behind the scenes, one of the driving forces behind the new-ish Infinite Hero Challenge. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Infinite Hero Honor Challenge, kind of the short version. It's like Tough Mudder's version of the Hurricane Heat. But that doesn't really describe it real well, because that would be like saying a Spartan and a Tough Mudder are exactly the same thing. And we all know that's not true. So it's a little more fun based and a little more team building and charity oriented, right? So participants can sign up. They either pay the registration fee or they use their season pass to sign up. And then they have to do a fundraising goal, and they'll raise money for Infinite Hero Honor Foundation. So it's a charity that does support both for physically and mentally for veterans. And then they show up on the day of the event. We start about 30 minutes before the first wave, and we finish up basically at the end of the day. So it's about a 10-hour event total. And it's got, you're not going to just follow the course of the Tough Mudder venue. You're going to kind of zigzag, right? So you're going to go from point to point. There's a little bit of land nav. It's not too hard land nav. We give you a map. You're supposed to bring a compass. You're carrying I think it's like a 10 or 15 pound backpack, so nothing too heavy. And we have you interact with the obstacles in a very unconventional manner, right? So you'll be going backwards over stuff, blindfolded, tied together. There'll be certain rules that you have to apply that we kind of give you constraints. And the whole thing has like a theme, right? So, you get a missions order at the beginning, an operations order based off real military operations orders. And then the whole theme's like, oh, well, you have to deliver supplies to the guys stuck behind enemy lines at obstacle X. And then you go to that obstacle and you deliver the supplies, which is usually something heavy. And, people just have a great day.
At every Tough Mudder start line, they say it's not a race, it's a challenge. And this seems kind of like the embodiment of that. It's clearly not a race. It's something you got to get through together.
Yeah, 100%. So there's no placings. We don't give out awards or anything. It's just a team building event, and it's a challenge. And it's pretty cool to watch the group, who are usually a bunch of strangers at the beginning, and really kind of gel towards the end. It usually takes about halfway through the day for people to start gelling. And it usually kind of really gets solidified, usually when we head over to Arctic Enema, which is always a good challenge.
So there's basically one wave or one group for each event. Is that correct? And then how many people are in that group? So
the goal was to get 22 per group to be to represent the 22. They say the statistic is 22 veterans a day commit suicide in the U.S. So the goal was to get 22 per group. We haven't quite hit those numbers. We launched it about halfway through last year, so I think a lot of people had already planned out their race calendar, and it was kind of booked up. So we only had small numbers the first couple of events. So we did one beta test in Indianapolis, and then we did 2 live events, one in Tri-State, and then one in Dallas, which was actually, it was technically a live event, but it was also closed because it was a group from Space Force and a couple of veteran Marines and Air Force people that came out.
So the whole wave was, or most of the wave was Space Force guys?
There was a couple of Space Force there, but yeah, it was all like active duty or veterans. Yeah.
What was different with like doing that versus doing, regular people in Indiana? What was how'd they react?
It was, the ones we had from the military had never done, I think one of them had done a Tough Mudder before. So they actually had a little more trouble just because they weren't familiar with some of the nuances of Tough Mudder, right? So if I say, go to Mudderhorn, they're like, well, I don't know what a Mudderhorn looks like. So they got to they can't spot Funky Monkey from across a field. So they kind of had to ask a lot more questions and talk to more people and get a little more pointers from other participants on the course to find some of the stuff, versus the veterans who have been there. They're like, oh, go to Funky Monkey. Oh, I know where that is. I was at this venue last year. It's over here. And I don't need a map and I don't need a compass.
That's funny. How much mileage do the racer or the participants cover?
I would say they cover, it'll vary per event. I would say they cover probably about eight-ish.
8 miles.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was looking at the schedule. There are 3 Tough Mudder Infinite Hero challenges this year: College Station, Los Angeles, and Atlanta. You said each one has its kind of unique mission or goals for the event.
Yeah. So as of now, for the first 3 events, I ran the same scenario. So it was the same obstacles, the same challenges. For 2022, I'm changing the scenario, changing the obstacles, changing the experience. So that'll be different in 2022. If I know there are people coming to multiple, like if someone messages me and they're like, I'm coming to every single one, we will change the experience up, right? So that person doesn't have the same venue. As of now, no one's done more than one in a single year. But if that does happen, I will absolutely create new challenges.
Are you going to run all 3? Like you'll be there on course?
Yeah. So it started out with me and Johnny Little from Tough Mudder. Johnny Little's been working with Tough Mudder for, ages. He was there, I think started in 2014 working for them. And then he was I didn't know this at the time, but he was kind of hired as a temporary contractor. And like after the second event, he's like, all right, Evan, it's your ball now. And I was like, what? I was like, am I in charge of this now? So I thought I was being hired as a consultant, and it turned out like I'm kind of running things, which was just fine. It's just not what I was expecting. And it's been a blast. Like you mentioned in the intro, I got to see behind the scenes of Tough Mudders, both on the Infinite Hero side, but then that runs simultaneously as the event's going on. So I got to see behind the scenes of like the normal events, and it was just really cool and gave me a lot of appreciation for how big a brand like Tough Mudder is, right? Like I've been behind the scenes of Conquer the Gauntlet and Battle of the Lions and KC Timber Challenge, right? They're all small venues in the Midwest, but Tough Mudder's got thousands of people, and just the throughput of people and the patience of the staff as people. I'd be sitting by like the entrance booth, and people come up and ask like the most ridiculous questions, and you're like, how are you? And the staff is remaining completely calm and being helpful and kind and courteous, and it just really gave me an appreciation for like the 99.9% of things that go right at a venue. And then, I think we're all guilty of it. Then afterwards, you're like, oh, the one volunteer at Funky Monkey didn't do whatever and someone didn't do the obstacle, but there's so many other things that went right. So it just gave me a much better appreciation for obstacle course racing in general, and specifically the bigger brands.
Tell me about the race swag. What do you get for finishing the challenge?
Yeah, so there's some great race swag. So new bib, it's purple bib, says Infinite Hero Honor Challenge on it, has the logo. New headband, also purple. You get a patch, which if you see, I wear it on the front of my mud gear hat a lot. And then you also get an oversized coin. So it's like the military is big on these challenge coins. Most of them are the ones we have in the military are like small, they're like an inch or two. This one's probably 3.5 inches across. It's pretty big. It's a solid coin. It's real nice. You get a t-shirt, and I think that's it. I miss anything? I think that's about it.
So I don't know if you know or you have any insight into the process, but Tough Mudder also this year launched a race called Tough Mudder Infinity.
Yes.
And I know the difference, but even like with you and I talking, I've used the wrong term like several times. Like, it's like 80% of the same word, and they're both using the purple theming. Sometimes I'm like, Tough Mudder, like what's the thought process there? Could we mix the names up a little bit, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure which thought came first. I was a little surprised when they chose purple for the Infinity headband, which is definitely going to be confusing. And when they launched Infinity, I don't stay up to the OCR news as much as I think most people would think I would. But when they launched Infinity, I had someone come up to me and start talking about Infinity. I'm like, no, it's called Infinite Hero Honor Challenge. And the two of us are talking past each other, not understanding a single thing. So not the best branding, I think. That being said, it's, toughest, and world's toughest was also very confusing when it launched. And I think most people have figured it out. Just another obstacle we have to face.
Yeah. I was at Trader Joe's the other day, and my wife asked me to pick up some O's or Trader O's or something. So I'm like, okay, yeah. So I get the cereal. It looks like Cheerios, right? Trader O's. And I get home and she's like, what is that? And she's like, I'm like, it's the O's. And she was there. I guess they also have a SpaghettiOs knockoff called Trader O's. Exact same name, completely different product. And I don't know why, but it reminded me of Tough Mudder Infinite, Tough Mudder Infinity. So we'll figure it out. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
Something else you're working with is the Battle of the Lions Pro Team. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So in 2020, I'm getting my years confused. At the end of 2020, the Conquer the Gauntlet race brand was like, we're dropping down to one race a year. So we don't see the need to have a pro team anymore, because it's only going to be one event a year. And basically think they can market for it on their own. So they're like, you can, they gave us the option. They said we could leave or we could stick with them for another year. And to me, it seemed wrong to like abandon ship, even though there's only one race. So we were like, we'll stay with you for a year and we will figure out what we change our name to sometime later. At the time, Battle of the Lions was being developed. We had no idea. So fast forward a couple months, and made contact with the owners, David Mainprize, who used to be part of CTG. He's one of their founders, and Sidney Paul Morris, one of the builders. So race owner for Battle Races in Louisiana, also one of the builders for OCR World Championships. And they were launching their series. They were interested in having us as their pro team. So essentially we rebranded. So same team, mostly. We changed a couple of athletes on there. And I stole the model from cycling. Cycling teams have a title sponsor and they will rebrand and they will continue same athletes on the team, just a different title sponsor. So that's essentially what we did. We added a couple of new people. And, we're going forward with that. We've got a whole host of great sponsors and brands we're working with that are supporting our athletes. And, the goal is to make it easier for athletes to go out and race, right? So you can't quit your day job and join the Mud Gear Battle of the Lions Pro Team, because it's not gonna be helpful. But we can reduce costs for people, and we can, get them some free entries and some free product and stuff like that to make it. And then if you're good enough, right, if you show up to races and win, you can make money off the sport. Again, we're not making enough to make a living off of, but you can generate profit.
I love the concept of pro teams. Where our sport is still so small that it's not going to be a full-time gig, right? But I love that, 20 years from now, there's the Mud Gear team and there's the Beat Elite team and there's the whatever. I just love, I don't know if it'll ever happen. I just love the thinking it that'd be cool. Like it could, have, competing teams, and Whole Miracles OCR Dream Team is competing against whoever. So anyway, I love the concept.
Yeah, some people are like, oh, well, that's not really a pro team because it's not your full-time job. It's like most sports, the pro athletes, it's not their full-time job. Like everyone's like, oh, well, baseball, football, basketball, right? Like those are the big sports. So that is a full-time job. Those have multi-million-dollar contracts. But like most other professional sports, people have side jobs. They're working as an athletic trainer, working as a physical therapist. They're working at Home Depot. They're just doing whatever. And we at some point we need to start moving the ball forward. And I think we've taken the first couple steps. Obviously, we need more money in the industry to make it more of a full-time thing. But again, you got to start someplace. So, and
Ryan,
I do have a.
Okay.
I do have a concept. Maybe I've been sitting on an article for like about 2 or 3 years now that I just haven't decided to publish. Maybe I'll send it over to you, Will. But I have a concept for like creating an OCR Pro League and a way to do it that's like very low cost and kind of benefits the athletes and the brands involved. It seems like a win-win.
I would love the concept. I was at motocross, a motocross event here in San Diego, and they have fantasy sports for motocross. And I was like, if motocross can run a fantasy event, we can, and I literally don't know a single one of these guys' names. I'm just there because it's like, it's fun racing. But as I'm leaving the stadium, I hear, the crowd is talking about, I told you my guy Watson would, or whoever the guy's names were. Like, I told you that guy. And they know these guys cold. I'm like, if motocross can do that and pack out Petco Park, we can get there eventually also. Maybe
I'll spruce up that article and send it over to you. So a very brief rundown is essentially, I lean towards brands creating pro teams as opposed to like race brands, as opposed to majors or sponsors, just because it's cheaper for the brand, right? Like it doesn't cost Battle of the Lions to give me a free race. Like they don't have to pay that cost.
Sure.
Versus if let's say Beat Elite was my title sponsor, and I wanted a race for free at Battle of the Lions, they would have to pay the registration fee, right? So it's physically costing money. So my larger concept was basically create a bunch of pro teams based off of a lot of like the Midwest races that are like kind of one-off. And then I also have like a Spartan and a Tough Mudder one. And and then kind of basically pick series, essentially create like a series. So like, all right, you can score for points at these 4 events in 2022, Highlander Assault, Abominable Snow Race, KC Timber Challenge, Battle of the Lions, and the championship will be at Conquer the Gauntlet, right? And it would be like its own separate standing thing, kind of like fantasy sports, where you still have to go and race in the elite heat, and anyone can race in the elite heat. But at the end of the day, you score points based off of your overall placement. So it could get complicated, right? So like, let's say that only the top 3 people score points, but if you show up with a team of 15 people and take those top 15 spots, you're pushing everyone else down in the rankings, right? So there's a little some strategy there.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's not exactly like, it's kind of like the U.S. National Series for Spartan Race. Like you have this series of races, and you want points, you got to go to, and it's good for everybody. Abominable Snow Race loves, these, like, where are these random elites showing up from? Like, we're just doing a fun snow race up here. Yeah, we keep time, and then like, all of a sudden, the whole Battle of the Lions pro team shows up. Like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Hey,
it takes a little bit of effort, and my schedule at this point, I keep piling things onto it and not giving myself kind of any space. So I have not had the time or energy to put forth into it.
We can workshop it offline. There's definitely potential for something like that. Hey, I have to kind of bring it up. Last time you and I talked on the podcast, it got kind of spicy a few years ago. How's it been since then?
Good. I think when you have 2 people who are passionate about a sport and passionate about a situation, things can get heated real easy. And, since then, I didn't talk to Ryan Woods for a couple of months. I think he said hi to me at World's Toughest Mudder about a year later. And then next time I saw him in person was the North American Championships 19 or something. So we apologized to each other. and basically said, water under the bridge, both on good terms. I've got no hard feelings towards him. As far as I'm tracking, he doesn't have any hard feelings towards me. We're both like, yeah, I think we both individually said this. We're both like, yeah, I think things worked out for the better in the long run. I think we're better people because of it. So, no hard feelings. People love drama and it sells, and I know that, people love to pick sides and argue with each other, but it's not me.
Any regrets looking back, or kind of?
I would have done a couple of things a little bit different. But like I said, I think I'm a better person for it in the long run. So, hindsight's always 20/20 when you look at some of your decisions. But you're operating off what you have, the information you have available at the time. So, yeah.
Evan, do you have any sponsors or anything you want to plug?
Yeah. So my personal sponsor is Hammer Nutrition, and then obviously Mud Gear Battle Alliance Pro Team. And then within Mud Gear Battle Alliance Pro Team, we have a bunch of sub sponsors, and I can't even name them all because there's a lot. But they all give us like a little bit of benefit, but when you aggregate it up, it really helps our athletes a lot. So we have Volition Chiropractic, we have Kelly Williams, who's a team physical therapist, just signed with Hyperwear, so we'll have some weight vests for our athletes to train. Gooder sunglasses. Who else? UFOs, recovery sandals and shoes. Mud Gear, obviously, for socks and racing apparel. Working with VJ shoes. So our whole team. It's very rare that you can get a group of athletes to agree on shoes, and VJ is one of those brands where everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I love these." May not everyone love the same model, but people love them, and because they work great and they fit great and they've got great traction there. And go for it.
I think I heard about UFA sandals from you, and I bought a pair of them. And for 95% of races, post race, they're amazing. Like you put them on out, and it's like a massage on the way back to the car.
It's amazing.
Didn't love them post World's Toughest Mudder, just because I had blisters like between my toes, and so I'd put them on, and I just couldn't. I had to wear like slides basically post Worlds.
Okay.
That's the only, but like literally every other race, I love them.
So they have slides, they have sandals, and then they have shoes. I like the shoes the best. The upper of the shoe is like super soft. So I'd highly recommend the shoes. There's the easy version, which has like no rubber strap across the top. And then there's I don't know what the other one's called, but the one with the rubber strap is better, in my opinion. The easy version with no rubber strap is a little bit stiffer upper because it's got to maintain the shape of your foot. The one with the strap across it is a softer upper because the strap kind of holds your foot in place.
I'll have to check that out. Evan, how can people follow you on social media?
So on Instagram, I'm under Ultra OCR Man, which is also the name of my book and upcoming documentary. So my friend Bobby Ross created a 20-minute documentary loosely based off some of the charity events I've done, and then some of the other kind of training and kind of my mindset. So I haven't seen the final cut, but I have seen a first pretty mostly complete draft. And I'm biased, but I think it's pretty good. I think it's entertaining. And I hear myself talking back on the camera, and I'm like, dude, I sound like a psychopath. Like, because I agree with all my statements, but it's taken, and there's no, you're just hearing the extremes of my statements of like my mindset going into a lot of these events. So it's pretty amusing to watch, at least for the first draft. We'll see what the final cut looks like. And then I'm on Facebook, Evan Perperis, completely public profile. You feel free to friend request me. And then I also manage the Strength and Speed Facebook page and Instagram, and the Mud Gear Battle Alliance Facebook page and Instagram, with a little help from some of the other crew in both of those organizations.
So about that movie, is there a release date scheduled to?
So the plan is, I'm going off Bobby on this because he's the film expert, but planning is submitting it to festivals in March because you get a little more publicity / benefits if you do the festivals first. And then the idea would be to release it in the summer. And it would line up well with, currently I'm trying to do, so every year I do an Ultra OCR charity event where I do something really stupid to my body. And usually ruin a month of my OCR racing season trying to recover. And then I raise money for a charity. And the 2022, I know the idea. I haven't locked down the details yet, but tentatively, it was going to be June 4th and 5th at Tough Mudder, New England. So, which is at Stratton Mountain. So I would pencil that into your schedule because that's going to be fun. Assuming I can get everything lined up. I got the initial from Kyle. He was like, "Yeah, we're interested. They just got to work out some of the nuances and the details." So
Sure.
I'm really hoping that happens because that would be huge. Because the Tough Mudder community and the people that show up to that event, I think they're just going to be more. They're going to be more into the the fundraising thing versus kind of doing it all online, which is what 2021 was like.
Okay, when I heard about your movie, I thought it was going to be like, we're making a movie. It'll be on like Amazon Prime, but it sounds like you're going to be like in theaters.
No. So the goal. So we're doing festivals first, and then the goal would be release it on like Amazon Prime or Netflix or something.
Okay, that's awesome.
So that's the plan. Again, there's a bunch of hurdles we have to get over, and I've never released or been part of like a movie before, so
sure.
Don't know how many hurdles and how many obstacles we'll have to face before we get to that end state.
Evan, any last thoughts on the Tough Mudder Infinite Hero Challenge or anything else?
Come out. It's going to be a great time. You're going to have fun. It's going to be tiring just because you're physically moving all day, but don't worry if you're like, well, I'm not the fastest or I'm not the strongest, right? I think everyone brings something valuable to the table. That goes with obstacle course racing, goes with Infinite Hero Honor Challenge, it goes with life. So, you'll have some value. You may be the heaviest and slowest person there, but you may be great at telling jokes and it keeps morale of the team up the whole time, right? You may be just tall and one of the obstacles that may require your height. And, someone else may be short and it may be require getting through a small space, right? So everyone's going to bring something to the table. We're going to have a good time. You're going to learn a little bit about the military and veterans and some of the challenges they face. I'm going to tell you a bunch of war stories if you're interested. Some of them are funny. Some of them are horrifying. Some of them I think are funny that other people think are horrifying. Those are my favorite ones. But you need a little bit of dark humor to get through some of that stuff.
You can run Tough Mudder Infinite Hero with Evan and College Station March 19th, Los Angeles on April 9th, and in Atlanta on April 23rd. Sign up at toughmudder.com. Evan Perperis, thanks much.
Thanks for having me, Will.
Special thanks to Evan Perperis for appearing in this episode. Well done, Evan. What do you think about Infinite Hero Challenge? Will you run one this year? Let me know what you think. 619-485-2726. Some people don't believe me that is my cell phone number. Well, then text me. Prove it. I'll text you back. Hey, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on the OCR Report Instagram at the OCR Report. What's your next race? What's your next Tough Mudder? I will see you in SoCal in about a month. I'll talk with you later. Go spend time with someone you love.